dealership that we run through from Minnesota, Butler out in South Dakota, numerous stores all across the country, so we use that Caterpillar network as our dealership for that product. Fendt is a Mark Torbendorf Germany tractor. Everybody probably heard of Fendt tractors. Fendt, if you want to call it in our line of tractors of all the equipment we build, that's our Cadillac. That's the most bells and whistles you can ever imagine on a tractor. There's a lot of different things you can do with Fendt tractors. They're very complex. And I don't want to scare you away by complex, but there's a lot of things you can do terminal-wise, setting it up to your preferences type thing on that tractor. Another one that we just acquired in 2011 is GSI, the grain bin company. People kind of scratch their heads on that one from AGCO, saying, you know, you really don't do anything with grain. Why? But if you think about it, it's still farmers. It's still farmers, and that's what we're selling to. AGCO is a pure ag company. Other places that the green guys and the other guys have other construction business and things on the side or do other things, AGCO is a pure ag company. We don't do anything with the other entities as far as construction or things like that. Everything we do is focused around agriculture. Number 4, the Massey Ferguson line. Still, a lot of people don't realize this, Massey Ferguson is the #1 produced tractor in the world. There's more Masseys produced in the world than any other tractor. A lot of people don't realize that. Everybody kind of thinks green. In the U.S., probably green is #1, but if you go worldwide with tractors, Massey is #1 as far as how many are produced. And then Valtra. Valtra is another tractor. It's a Finnish tractor. It's made over in Slati, Finland. Everybody remember the old Valmat tractors? That is what morphed into Valtra. So that's a Finnish company or Finnish tractor that's under our AGCO brand. Different things that we do. Tractors, harvesting. There's a Fendt forage harvester. There's all kinds of different harvesting things, combines, things like that. Hay tools. The Heston line is a Massey branded hay tool now. We also have Challenger hay tools and balers. Application, our rogators, terrigators, if you're aware of those, our sprayers and spreaders. Those are made down in Jackson. Seeding tillage, the sunflower tillage area. That's our focus. That's down in Kansas, of course, replacement parts. And then again, GSI. One part of it, everybody thinks GSI is grain bins. They also are protein production, so chicken feeder, automated feeders for swine, for chickens, confinement buildings. GSI has got their hands in that also. So it's a very diverse company other than just grain bins. Here is AGCO's acquisitions, and it's a large list. AGCO is a company that was founded in 1990, so we're not a very old company. Okay, so this is the acquisitions that we started with, starting back in 90 with Deutz-Fahr, all the way through Heston, Massey. McConnell is a articulated tractor. If anybody's remember the AGCO Stars, articulated AGCO Stars, they became or started out as a McConnell tractor. Black Machine, anybody know what Black Machine was? Planters. We wanted the suspension part of that planter. It was a smaller business, and basically AGCO acquired it. So we needed some technology that we wanted some technology they had, so we went and bought Black Machine. Ty again, tillage, farmhands tillage. Maxion is like a dealership network in Brazil, so we got our inroads into Brazil. Western Combine Portage, that is a Canadian combine company that kind of turned into the Massey combines in Canada. So that was kind of the beginnings of that piece. Deutz Argentina was another dealer network. Droppenberg was a precision farming group out of Germany. So that's what that was. Fendt, of course, explains itself. Wilmer and Spray Coop are sprayers that AGCO acquired. Wilmer was up in Benson, Minnesota, up in that area. Spray Coop was up in North Dakota. Wilmer and Spray Coop are both no longer part of the sprayer lines. They've been discontinued. Spray Coop just went away here about last May. That has now got we released a Rogator 700 that's going to be very comparable to what that Spray Coop used to be. HFI is Harvard Hay and Forage Industries, another company we bought. AgChem, my heart and soul, when I started at AgChem, it was AgChem back in 1987. That was the sprayers at that time, and then they were bought by AGCO in 2001. Challenger track tractors. A little thing about Challenger track tractors, that was a Caterpillar product. Caterpillar in 2001 decided they didn't want to play in the ag business anymore and wondered about selling off that product, and AGCO raised their hand and said, you know what, we'll take that. So that's another brand now that's under the AGCO blanket. So it's no longer a Caterpillar tractor, it's a Challenger tractor. Design integrity, everything like that is still the Caterpillar design. We still use a power shift cat transmission in that tractor, but it's no longer a cat tractor, it's a Challenger tractor. Sunflower tillage, a lot of the discs, rippers, harrows, things like that, they're all built down in Beloit, Kansas. I talked about Valtra Velmat. When we bought Valtra in 04, we also acquired Sisu Diesel, who was basically before there was a Velmat engine along with the Velmat tractor. That Velmat engine morphed into what we call Sisu Power, S-I-S-U, Sisu Power, and now we're calling them AGCO Power engines. So AGCO actually has our own engine company. So we own an engine company, it's over in Finland. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then these are some smaller companies over in Italy, Laverdia, some forage harvesters and things like that, fella. And then we get into Sparix, Amity and Wilrich up in North Dakota. We have a 50-50 split with those guys for like air seeders, some Wilrich tillage, that kind of thing. That's a 50-50 split with us. And then again, last was GSI. A little bit about AgChem Jackson. AgChem was founded by Al McQuinn. If anybody remembers the name Al McQuinn, he was at the start of AgChem back in 67, 60, or 63 is when he founded it. Our main plant that we're working out of right now was built in 1967. He started in the back of a co-op selling Hagie Highboy sprayers. Everybody remembers Hagie Highboys? He sold the parts for those Hagie Highboys. And the more he looked at that sprayer as he was selling the parts for it, he said, you know what, I can build a better mousetrap. And that's exactly what he did. He went out and he built a sprayer with 3 other guys in the back of a garage and started the company basically from scratch, or from the bottom up. In 1995, we put another 175,000 square foot addition to the facility before it became AGCO. It was still AgChem at that time, and basically housed all of our fabrication and welding department. That is part of the tour if you come down and see us now. And then AGCO bought us, or AGCO was founded in 1990, and then AGCO bought us in 2001. So there was a little, you could call it nervousness at the time, wondering what was going to happen to AgChem Jackson with a company like AGCO buying us, but much to our relief, it was still, they decided to keep their production in Jackson, which has just grown since that time. So we're very fortunate for that. Track tractors, I explained from CAT in 2002. In 2011, the fall of 2011, the Massey and Challenger wheel tractors, okay, used to be built in Beauvais, France. Those wheel tractors have now been moved back to North America for North American markets, now being built out of Jackson, Minnesota. So any what we call the high horsepower tractors, so from about 130 up to the 320s, are going to be built out of the Jackson facility. All of those tractors have a CVT transmission, continually variable transmission, okay? So if you get into the slap shifts or the Dyna VT shifters, they're still coming out of France at this time. We do this in chunks. Like one of my bosses said, you can't eat the elephant in one bite. You got to take it in chunks. So we're bringing all that stuff as much as we can back to the U.S., and we'll do it in pieces until we get as much back as we can get back. So that's the plan for that. In 2012, last June, we opened what we call the Nativity Center. Nativity Center is like our visitor center, our tour, start of our tour process. If people want to come down and see the plant, see us, that's what we're at. It's a museum. It's a 17,000 square foot addition we added onto the plant. It houses all the products that we create, so you can take a look at them inside in climate control. And it's also a museum of sorts, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a little bit. AGCO Jackson employs 1,300 people on campus in Jackson, Minnesota. Take a guess how many people live in Jackson, Minnesota. 3,300. So we're putting 1,300 people to work in our little town of 3,300. Now a lot of us commute, of course. I'm in Welcome, that's 20 miles away, but that's a very nice commute every day. So it's a very, very big part of Jackson. And recent announcements, we just added another 30,000 square foot addition to the plant, more fabrication and welding department adding on. And they just also signed an announcement with the city of Jackson to put in a 48 complex housing development, apartments, things like that, because there's such a lack of housing in Jackson, Minnesota right now for the people that we're hiring and trying to staff on site. So AGCO is a big player with the city of Jackson, and we're a big asset, and as they are to us. Square footage under roof. We're at about 16 acres under roof for all the facilities that we have at Jackson, Minnesota. Also inside the fence, we're about 125 acres. So all of our grounds are about 125 acres. So yeah, we're a big plant. There's a lot going on in Jackson, Minnesota. Here's Here's our facility, here's our campus. So a little bit about that. The Activity Center, our visitor center, you're going to enter here. The Interstate 90 is running right here. And this is like a little service road that comes off the interstate. You'll be coming this way from the interstate, and you pull into here to our visitor center. The tractor plant is right here. You go across the road here over to a block. Here's the fabrication and welding. And this is all the Terrogator, Rogator assembly plant here. 125 engineers sit in this building here that design all our products. So we're at 125 design engineers right now that make our stuff. And I also have a test track over to the side here. So if a dealer comes in with his customers, they can go out and drive tractors and see the functionality and how they like the tractors and that stuff. So it's a very self-sufficient, we're really a nice little player in Jackson. Activity Center, where I work, my job. Activity Center, what's it mean? You're not going to find the word activity in Webster's, trust me, it's not there. It's where innovation meets productivity. So the innovative things that we make and that we productively make them. Big word. Tours, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:30 a.m. We are open 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, excluding the holidays, of course. Like I said, public plant tours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll get into that in a little bit. It has a showroom museum showcasing the past products where the history of everything started, all the way up through the futuristic things we're looking at down the road. And then we've also got the examples in the showroom that you can crawl around and look at. Have a novelty store with clothing and toy models, things like that you can look at. Since last June, Activity Center has hosted over 12,000 visitors already. So we're a little over a year and a half, and we're already 12,000 into the goods. So a lot of people are coming through, and we welcome you again to come down to Jackson, and we'll take care of you. I promise you that. It's free of charge. There are no costs involved with taking the tour or going through the plant. Some numbers, 254 people in one day, and our largest customer is a big massive dealer down in Iowa. We brought 120 prospective customers, 3 bus loads in one day. So he was a busy boy getting all those guys lined up to come down for a tour. There's the front of the Activity Center. We have a 55-person theater that you can sit down in. We show you a little video to start the tour out, to kind of show you who we are, what we do, the products we make, a little bit behind the people and the culture that we build these products in. There's interactive displays, so you can go in and actually interact with this board, and it'll tell you stories and video, and it's neat stuff. Novelty store there. Then there's a showroom where it shows all the products that we make, and all the way around all the boards. There's this along the outside walls that you can stop and read. If you're buffs in history about Massey or Challenger or the different products, you can read for hours if you like to. And I've had guys come in and spend all day. They read all morning, went out to lunch, and come back and read all afternoon. And we love to have them. I mean, it's great. These guys like this stuff, and they read it, and you're more than welcome to come down and see us. And there's our little Massey 35 Review storage. So there's a little thing on Massey here, too. 46 states have visited the Activity Center, along with District of Columbia. I've got 4 states I need yet. So Hawaii and a few Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Islands are my 4 that are left. Otherwise, every state has visited the Activity Center in the last year and a half. And here's all the countries that have visited the Activity Center. So look at the different ones there. I mean, all the way from France, Germany, Italy. I've had about 10 to 12 African countries visit, and I'll give you a little more spiel about that after a little bit. But the New Zealands, the Aussies, Japan, Taiwan, Russia, everybody's pretty much been there and saw what we're doing. The 3 brands that recognize coming out of the AGCO plant, if you've seen these before, the Rogator, Terrogator are our first products that we started. And then, of course, Challenger with the tractors, and then Massey tractors. So now I'm going to go into and start delving into the products. So this was number 1. This is what Al McQuinn produced for the first time ever in Jackson. Look at this little guy. 404 SP was the name of it. It was an ag gator. It was created in '67. It had a 117 horse Wisconsin engine in it. It was articulated, jointed at the middle there. Had a 400-gallon stainless steel tank on it, 4-speed manual transmission. You notice all the nice filtering for the cab environment? That's back when we sprayed with the open cabs. Today we have 3 filters in our Rogators to keep out the chemicals and stuff in the cab. But we've come a long way from what it used to be. I think the boom spread on this, I think, was a 30-foot spread. You could spray 30 feet. But that was number 1. That was the first one Al ever produced. It's still at Jackson. They restored it so that we can keep that for good. So we'll go chronologically. So these are the first products that we created in Jackson. These are our Terragator lines. The largest we run right now is a 9300. It's going at about a 425 horse AGCO power engine. Okay, 2,400 gallon liquid tank on that one, or also you can go dry systems also. So you can do air spread dry, air max dry, or also you can put a flail type spreader on there. That has the CVT constantly variable transmission in it, so it's no shifting, no clutches. It's all stepless transmission, a very smooth ride. Then we go to the 4-wheel Terragators, the 8400s, and then it's an 1,800 gallon tank with the same options for the dry systems. And then this is our 3-wheel chassis, kind of hard to see, but that's got the front fork on a 3-wheel floater. So that's more the flatland guys that don't have to worry about terraces and hills. If we get into hilly country or terraces, they're more opting to the 4-wheel chassis just for stability. But this is more the co-op owned products that are spreading and spraying on your farms. Here's the Rogator line. That came in '93. The Rogator over here on the right is our bread and butter product, basically the 9, the 11, and the 1300 Rogators. You can see their horsepowers there, from 280 to 339 horse. This runs a twin hydrostat, 2 hydros, so they split plummet. So one hydro runs a front and a rear wheel, the other hydro runs another front and a rear wheel. So it's cross-plumbed, so that both rear wheels aren't going to spin, both front wheels aren't going to spin. You've got power from 2 sources to run 2 different sets of wheels. So it's a double hydrostatic drive. 9, 11, and 1300 gallon liquid tanks, and then it'll go from a 60-80 boom all the way out to our latest now is a 120-foot boom spread. The 700 Rogators are a brand new product that was just released last August, September down at Farm Progress in Illinois. This, I talked about the spray coupe line being discontinued. This basically has taken the place of our spray coupe. We've added another Rogator to the fleet. This is a 700 gallon Rogator, more geared toward the growers. So this isn't more a co-op sprayer, this is a farmer sprayer. So we're getting into that entry-level sprayer. It's powered at about 165 horse. It's a 4-cylinder AGCO power engine. It's hydrostatic drive, airbag system ride, so it's a very smooth ride, and with the boom configurations of 60-80 split or a 60-90 split. So you can spray at 60 or at 90. Nice little machine, very well received. It just won the Manufacturer of the Year award for the crop protection systems. So there's a publication out there. This won their Innovation of the Year award right now. It was just announced last week. Here's track tractors. So these are the tractors that are coming out of, used to be the Caterpillar tractors. You are seeing some of the first pictures of our new E-Series tractor. If you've seen old track tractors before, take a look at the hood. It's got a little different look to it, a little different styling to it. So we've upgraded that. We've done some different creature comforts and styling to it. And we've also added it into 3 tiers of engines from 350 to 400 horse. This is a 7-cylinder AGCO power engine. So combines, if you're, what's that? 7 cylinders. Remember, we're our own engine company, so we don't have to be like everybody else anymore. But yeah, it's a 7-cylinder engine. All our combines, Challengers, Massey's, all run this 7-cylinder combine. That's their engine also. Yep. Power shift transmission from CAT, and then also our mobile track system, which is our rubber tracks that basically self-support themselves. You don't have to tear the whole track apart. It comes off as one piece, it goes back on as one piece. They stand by themselves. So the right and the left tracks. That's the little guy. Here's the big guy. The big guy's going to run a 12-cylinder AGCO power engine. Twin 6s stacked side by side. Twin turbo. Maxing out at 590 horse for that one. So that's our big 875E. Same power shift transmission, same mobile track system. Big difference here, tillage tractor, planter tractor. You can use this one for tillage also, but any big acre guys that are pulling a lot of 40-foot tillage, they're running that big 800 track tractor.
How much?
A lot. When I tell you I don't know, I don't know. Take that up with Ziegler. I don't know. I have no idea. And I don't want to know.
You've got to be kidding. You've got as much knowledge as you have.
I do not have price.
Don't tell us you don't have an idea of what the price
I
is.
got a damn good idea, but I ain't gonna tell you. Articulated tractor, 2007 is when that was brought on board at AGCO. This is from the ground up AGCO. It's not a borrowed from somebody else tractor, it's ours from the ground up. This is our big articulated. 945 through 975, this one still sits with a Cat engine. Have you noticed a trend here with the other tractors and everything going to AGCO power? So I don't need to tell you probably where this one's gonna go fairly soon. So it's still got the Cat in it this year, but probably by next year, you're probably looking at an AGCO power engine here too. In those same horsepower ranges. So you're probably gonna be up in that 12-cylinder again, would be my guess.
Are all your AGCO engines then made in Finland?
Correct, yes.
Boy, it's got to be a huge plant.
It's a big plant. And that supports Beauvais, France, it supports Mark Torbner of Germany, and it supports Jackson, it supports a lot of different places. They build a lot of engines, and that's all they do, is build engines. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Four-wheel drive tractor, power shift transmission again, and we're touting the largest axle diameters in the industry for our axles. So they're beefy, well-built axles. Now we'll get into Massey's, the wheels. These came to the United States in 2011 from Beauvais, France. So right now, Jackson is building all of the CVT modeled wheel tractors in Jackson for North American and Canadian markets. So here's your power breakdowns here from 240 down to 340. Five different models there. CVT transmission again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And also SCR, which is our selective catalytic reduction. Everybody's heard about DEF. That's our choice on exhaust emissions. So we went with the DEF system. We'll explain DEF a little bit. And then the smaller one is the 7000 Massey, so it's a little smaller stature from 170 to 220, but very comparable as far as CVT and SCR. So it's just a little smaller tractor. But again, anything non-CVT, we have a Dynashift transmission. If you order a Dynashift from a John Klaus or somebody today, that's still coming out of Beauvais for right now. Someday, hopefully, the goal will be to get that back to US too. But again, we can't do it all at once, so we're doing it in pieces. Challenger wheel tractors, very, very comparable to the Massey wheel tractors. If you look, horsepower ranges are very, very close, if not identical. And also stature of the tractor, the engine, the transmission, the system basically is all the same tractor. Difference here, dealer networks, GM to Chevy. Massey dealerships are not with Cat dealers. So you have to have two different avenues of dealership network. So we need a yellow tractor, we need a red tractor. That's how we do it. Where else do we make AGCO products? Let's start in the United States. In Beloit, Kansas, we build sunflower tillage and white planters. We go down to Heston, Kansas, which is the next door neighbor, 50, 60 miles away. They're going to build the Massey, the Gleaner, and the Challenger combines down one assembly line. They're going to build the Heston hay tools, which are now branded as Heston Massey. So all your big squares, your small squares, your rakes, your tedders, all of your round balers, square balers, everything comes out of Heston. Swathers, everything. And white planters. So basically they're building the planter bars, the metal part of it in Beloit, and they're putting the boxes and the air systems on it in Heston. So they're finishing that planter down in Heston. And I'll talk about a little more about the detail of the products here coming out. And then Jackson, of course, as we explained, the Massey and the wheel tractors and for both Massey and Challenger, then also the Terragator rotators. South America, Canoas, Brazil, builds Massey wheel tractors. Mogadishu builds Valtra wheel tractors. And Santa Rosa builds Massey combines. Notice something here. South America is their own business unit. They build their own tractors for their markets. Reason being is it's so ungodly high to import or export into South America. So it makes more sense for us to build there than to try to bring tractors in from a Beauvais or from a Jackson.
Are they building the same thing as the...
Very, very similar products, yes, yes. Big opportunities in Brazil, large farms. They can carry their own product with the factories, so that's why we did that. And then we get over to Europe. Linovori is the AGCO Power Engines. It's a suburb of Nokia. If you've heard of Nokia, Finland, Nokia phones, Nokia is a little bit. Linovori is very close to Nokia, and that's the engine plant. Salati, Finland is the Vulture plant, where they're building the Vulture tractors for Europe and North America. There's not a lot of Vultures running around the United States. It's more a Finnish tractor. A lot of lumber, a lot of forestry, skidder tractors they use them for. So there's a lot of that for the Finnish markets. Beauvais, France builds the Massey's and the Challenger wheels for European markets. And also, like I said, the Dyna VT or the Dyna shifts for US too, for right now. Martorbendorf, Germany builds Fendt. So all the Fendt wheel tractors come out of Martorbendorf. That's its own factory. That's a large factory. And then Grubenhorst, Holland builds their own rogators and interrogators. So what we build is Ag Chem products in Jackson. They do their own thing in Holland. Just because of it's not a big market over there, but they do it a little different than we do, so they've got their own factory over there. They're actually a cab forward sprayer versus where we sit midship. They're a cab forward sprayer. So AGCO Power Engines, their own diesel engine provider from 80 up for engines. The first to offer SCR. We've had that SCR technology for 2 years. We've been running SCR in our tractors for about 2 years now. The most powerful 3-cylinder engine, and also it's the 4th generation of engines that have met the EPA requirements that are asked of us from the government. There's Linovori. Interesting here, like flywheels and things that are made, the components of the engine, cranks, camshafts, things like that are all made robotically, but the engines are hand assembled by a team. Some of you, I don't know if anybody's here has got Massey or Challenger wheel tractors, but if you look on the engine, there's a silver sticker that tells you the serial number, the horsepower ratings, everything like that. And on the very bottom, there's 4 names. Those 4 names are the boys that built that engine. Now, if a warranty claim comes back against that engine, their compensation is directly reflected by the warranty claims against that engine. So that's kind of interesting. I just found that out about 6 months ago when we had Europe over here and explained it to me. So they have a very vested interest in making sure that that engine is built correctly. Because if something happens to that engine or something goes wrong with it, they're going to get a tick on their paycheck because something wasn't built right when they built that engine. Interesting concept, but it works because they're a very good engine. 50 to 500 horse from 3 to 12 cylinders, like I say, hand and robotic assembly, and meeting the SCR requirements again as we talked. And there's the facility right there. All they do is build engines. That's all they do. SCR, DEF, what we do, how we do it, in a nutshell. It's going to have a tank sitting next to your fuel tank with a blue cap for your fill cap. The neck on your fill cap on there is reduced so that your big nozzle for your diesel will not go in there. It's neck down so that you don't put it in the wrong tank. So we tried to foolproof it a little bit, but it's also got the blue cap versus the green cap. The tank will hold about 16 gallons of DEF. Good rule of thumb, 1 tank of DEF runs about 2 tanks of fuel. So 16 for the DEF. It's got a dosing module, a pump here, that will pump that up into the catalytic or into the exhaust system after the turbo. So after the engine has created its horsepower and is pushing that hot gas out of the engine, we're going to treat it to make that exhaust clean again. So we're not using the engine to clean the exhaust. We're not running it through the whole engine and taxing 10 horsepower off to extract nitrics. We're doing it after it's been done. So what it's doing then is it's dropping that DEF into here, it's pushing it down into this catalytic chamber here, and what it's doing there is it's mixing that nitrics with that urea and water, and it's turning it into nitrogen and water vapor, so it's blowing out white smoke. So it's pushing out a white smoke, and it's clean. Tests just come back from California. The air is cleaner coming out of the tractor than it was going in. And that's not a lie. That's fact. So that's kind of scary, isn't it? Another one we had a product specialist. SCR, nobody wants to mess with it. Let's just call it spade a spade. They don't like messing with this DEF. They don't like it. It's what we have to do. It's what the government's making us do, so we have to do it. But we had some guys down in southern Wisconsin, dairy farmers that were running Massey's for their balers and stuff. And the product specialist had stopped out to do a demo for him one day, and they let him have it about this pain in the ass DEF we got to do. We hate messing with it. Well, so the dealer said, okay, let's start that tractor and put it in your machine shed, and let's shut the door, let's go to lunch. And let's come back in about 4 hours. The guy just looked at him funny and said, okay, whatever. So they went to lunch, Come back and says, okay, let's open the door and go on in and see what's going on in that machine shed. Walked in there like it was nothing was ever in there as far as exhaust. The farmer looked at him and the exact words were, he said, you know what, 5 years ago every damn bird and mouse in here would have been dead. And he's right. So it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's doing the right thing. Is it a pain in the rear? Yes, but we have to do what we have to do. But that's what that's for.
Does the European market require that as well?
It will be, yes, it will be. They're a little bit behind us, but they're gonna be, it's a worldwide mandate, so they're gonna have to do it. Yeah. So here's that schematic of that DEF system. Here's your tank. So it's got an inline heater in the tank, so if you're plugging your tractor in with your heater, it's also gonna warm your DEF. So it's gonna keep that warm. It's gonna take it to this pump, and here's your injector where it's injecting into the turbo as it's coming out, mixing in that catalytic chamber. See this thing here, that's a dosing or a sensing module. So when that DEF is being used, it's sensing how much the engine is using it. And if you're light tilling in the spring, it's not going to take as much DEF as if you're deep tilling in the fall. So if you're really lugging that engine hard for a long time, it's going to suck more DEF than if you're just light tilling in the spring, it's not going to take as much. So it's a sensing DEF. So you don't have to, it's not a set amount, it's going to be that way the whole time through. If you're not doing a lot of work to it, if you're roading or just running wherever you're going, it's not going to take a lot of DEF. But a good rule of thumb, like I said, about 1 tank of DEF to 2 tanks of fuel. DEF will freeze at 12 degrees. What we're doing there is there's a separate heating coil, like I said, in there. So if you're plugging your tractor in the cold in the winter months, if you're snow blowing with it, you're plugging it in anyway. So this keeps that DEF warm. It keeps circulating through there to keep that DEF warm. It takes about 20 minutes if it's a solid block. So if you freeze it up in there and you let it sit for a month and now you decide you want to run it, plug it in within 20 to 25 minutes, it'll be back to where you can function with that DEF again.
And the stuff which is already in the lines,
Will warm,
it'll warm that?
yes. There's a cycle in there that'll cycle that whole thing through. Now, if you're going to leave it sit all winter, let's say you got a tillage tractor, you're not going to snow blow with it, you're not going to get it out, we suggest you drain that DEF. Take it out, it's water, it's urea, you rinse the tank out, you get your system clean, and then in the springtime, just fill it back up again. So it doesn't sit there for 4 or 5 months and not running. Because you're not going to plug it in for 5 months.
So obviously it's still good if it freezes and so.
Yes, it's still okay. Yep. That's constantly recirculated, and again, it's gonna, if that DEF, if you start running yourself out of DEF, it's got a gauge just like a fuel gauge in your cab that'll show DEF. If you get down to within, I think, between a quarter and a half a tank, it's start gonna give you a beep and a light to say you need to put more DEF in, okay, because it's gotta keep cleaning that exhaust. If you ignore that light and say, no, I don't want to fill it today, it's going to derate that engine to where the point where it runs out, it's going to stop that engine. So it's not letting you cheat. You can't cheat and say, well, I'm just not going to fill it. Doesn't let you do that. It'll derate it where to 50%, which you don't want to use it that way anyway, but then if you just constantly ignore it, it's going to take that tractor down. It's not going to hurt it, it's just going to stop it. Okay? So now let's get into tractors and what we build and where we build them. Economy compact tractors, we'll call them compact utility equipment, Q. 1700, both in a premium and an economy model, so no cab versus cab. These are built by AGCO over in Japan. So that's a joint venture we have with that company in Japan that builds these small utility tractors for us. So that's where those are made. Now we get into the implements, different attachments. So you got snow blowers, you got backhoes, you got different things like that. Sioux Tractor, which is down in Iowa, that builds those. The mowers are again AGCO, Radtech and Alamo are both U.S. companies also. 2600 light utilities, 3 models. Again, very open cab, low, it's not a big tractor around here because we like cabs. But you get down south in the peanuts and the cotton, you see a lot of these tractors running around. Very simple cab, just a platform, 2 or 4-wheel drive, but a very chore tractor, very simple tractor. They're made by Taffy, which is another company that we have joint ventures in India. 4600, the utility tractor. Now we're getting into that 3-cylinder engine. This one also has either the non-cab or cab, and again, AGCO in Japan makes those. But starting to get into baler tractors, chore wagons, stuff like that that'll run these. 5600 series, 3 or 4 cylinder. This series is going to come out with about 4 or 5 more models. This is becoming a real popular tractor with us. Those models are released probably the Q1 of 14, so you'll see some new announcements about it'll probably turn into a 5700 series. There'll be some more engine enhancements, some more engine horsepowers. But loader tractor, great for that kind of stuff, things like that. Again, that's a Beauvais tractor because it's not a CVT model, so we're going to build them out of Beauvais French yet. Mid-range tractors, so your 66s and also your yellow MT400s. I want to mention too, on the back tiles you saw a lot of red. There are yellow complements to those also, but I wasn't going to put every one of those on a tile because we'd have been here all night and it's the same tractors. So there is a yellow version if you want to go through the Caterpillar network also. But 4-cylinder with the SCR technology, you can start getting into CVT transmission in these guys. And then also the big for these are the custom hay guys, baler tractors, swather tractors, that they're using a lot of these. Fendt tractors. So these are the ones built over in Martorbenor, Germany. 3 models, 3 series. There's models of those, each of those series, but from 100 to 390 horse. Typical for these, a lot of custom manure, a lot of dairy, a lot of different things like that because they want the speed. They got that Fendt or CVT transmission in it. With a suspended axle and a suspended frame, you can run 31 to 34 mile an hour with these tractors. Guys that are hauling manure want that time, that road time back and forth, so they're not going 5 mile or 7 mile an hour back and forth. They can run 31 to 34 down the road with these. Fendt, a lot of innovation, a lot of different things they've come up with, and one of them being is the Fendt transmission. And if Sally would come over and start that video for me, I've got a little explain to you how that CVT transmission works.
Here's a quick look into the inner workings of AGCO's continuously variable transmission, more commonly referred to as the CVT. Directly in the middle, you'll notice the planetary gear set. The planets are connected directly to the engine and therefore are always turning when the engine is on. The ring gear surrounding the planets supplies power to the hydraulic pump. The hydraulic pump provides power to the hydraulic motors that engages one of the range gears and delivers tractive power to the rear wheels. The sun gear in the middle of the planetary gear set is connected directly to the collection shaft, which then goes straight down to the range gear and to the rear wheels. As soon as the engine is turned on, the planet gears start to turn. Because there is no pressure on the hydraulics, the ring gear is free to rotate. While the equipment is in neutral, the operator can select the desired range to engage either field or transport range. When forward direction is selected, the hydraulic pump will start to swing. This allows it to start pumping fluid to the hydraulic motor. As the hydraulic motor starts to turn, it will start to turn the collection shaft, which turns the range gear and then turns the wheels. The sun gear also starts to turn as resistance starts to increase on the ring gear and decrease on the sun gear. As the operator calls for more ground speed, the hydraulic pump starts to swing further and increases the output to the hydraulic motor. As speed continues to increase, the hydraulic motor starts to swing in towards the neutral position. This increases pressure on the hydraulics, which in turn increases resistance on the ring gear. As the resistance on the ring gear is increased, the resistance on the sun gear is decreased. This causes more power to be transferred directly through the sun gear as the machine speeds up. When the hydraulic motor reaches neutral, it creates enough hydraulic pressure to stop the hydraulic pump and the ring gear. All power will then be transferred directly through the sun gear to the rear wheels. As the machine slows down, the reverse process happens. The hydraulic motor starts to swing back, reducing pressure on the hydraulics and the ring gear. Once the motor has swung out all the way, the hydraulic pump starts to swing towards neutral. This further reduces the resistance on the ring gear until all power is passing through the ring gear when the machine is in neutral. When the machine travels in reverse, The hydraulic pump swings in the opposite direction as when the machine was moving forward. This pumps to the hydraulic motor in a reverse direction, which turns the range gears in reverse and turns the wheels in reverse. While in reverse, the transmission is always 100% hydraulic, and the angle of the pump determines the rate of speed. As you saw, there are no clutches and no shifting in this transmission. Everything is automatically controlled by the CVT. Seamless transitions from neutral to top speed and even into reverse is what makes this transmission unique and extremely versatile. Here's a quick look into the inner workings.
So it's just going to repeat itself. But that's the CVT transmission and how it works. So it's just basically pumping hydraulic oil to turn those gears, which turn those wheels. So when we say stepless, we mean there are no shifting. You don't feel a shift whatsoever. So I'll call it like a hydro feel, but it's not a hydro. Because a hydrostatic transmission uses the engine horsepower to turn the pumps. Okay? This is still a pump system, but it's not taxing that engine to run those pumps. It's a very efficient transmission. It's a Fendt product, so it's a Fendt transmission. If you pull this out and look at the casing that this thing sits inside, it's stamped Fendt right on the side. So it comes right from our Torbendorf, Germany plant. About 150 to 200,000 of these transmissions out in the industry right now. We're between 1 and 3% failure rate on this transmission. So very, very low transmission failures. It's a solidly built transmission. The people that got them love them. It's a great tranny. Fendt does not mess around. If there would be something that goes wrong in this transmission, they send you a new transmission. You pop the cap off the top of the transmission housing, you undo all of your hydraulic fittings, and you pop the new one back in. They don't ask questions, they just send you a different one in a wooden box to the dealer, and the dealer installs it.
What do they do with the ones that go back?
They go back to Fendt and they research why they went wrong. So that's what they do with the Fendts. They don't mess with them. They're a great transmission. A lot of guys love them for the baling, the swathing, because you've got two modes of speed. You've got a joystick, very similar to a hydro, but it's not again. The more you tap it ahead, the faster it's going to go. If you pull back on it, it's going to slow it down. You've also got another mode where you can drive it just like a pickup. It's got a foot feed. So you can do two modes of driving. So if you're baling and you come up to a big chunk and you want to slow up a little bit, you let up on your foot feed, your RPM stay up on your PTO to keep that thing running, to run through that clump, but yet that speed can be dictated by your foot. So it's a very, very nice transmission in that aspect.
How does it handle cold weather with, when your fluid is getting stiff from, say, our cold, which is probably colder than what it experiences in Europe?
It's a good question. I've never heard anything where we've had issues with that, because it's a tractor we use a lot in this area for blower tractors, for bucket tractors, for snow. I've never heard an issue with cold affecting that. One other point I want to make is the hydraulic system for the CVT is separate from your hydraulic system for your implements. So other ones have it where all the hydraulic system is one tank. This one has two tanks, so that when you're plugging back your implements on your couplers and you're pushing a little dirt back into that coupling system, that dirt's not getting to your transmission. This one's sealed up, it's got a fill cap in the back. You never come close to it when you start doing your hydraulics for your implement valves or for your normal hydraulic system. It's a totally separate system, a separate loop system that doesn't touch your implement hydraulics. So that's another way of keeping it clean and making sure that it's operating in the right way. Fendt tractor history. Again, I talked about Mark Torbendorf, Germany, where they're built. We bought them in 1997, so we bought the Fendt tractor line in 97 to become AGCO. Leader in many technologies. I talked about the transmission that was built in 96 or invented in 96. The cab suspension and front axle suspension. So we've got a floating cab and we've got a floating axle. So we need those if you're going to run that 33 to 34 mile an hour down the road. Very, very nice riding tractor. The Massey's and the Challengers also give you that front suspended axle. If you want that with the cab suspension, that's an option you can order also on our Massey's and Challengers. And then the CAN buses, which is electronic technologies. And then of course the varial transmission or varial terminal is like your armrest terminal, your computer board in your tractor. It's unbelievable what you can do on that board. It's just, you can set your hydraulic flows, I think you can set your alarm clock in there. It's just amazing all the different things you can do with that terminal. Combines. Talked about those. There's 3 brands that AGCO builds. The Challenger brand, the Gleaner, and the Massey. So here's your Challenger, here's the Gleaners, and here's a American skinned Massey. So we did some options there, some special skinning that we would do on them for, there was a Canadian one also, Sally, but I didn't find a picture of it, I'm sorry.
Oh, darn it. Well, get out then.
Huh?
Go home, Jay.
Yeah. 2 configurations, there's axial flow and transverse flow. And I told the first group, I don't know sick'em about combines. So, I'm not sure which ones are which, and I'm sorry, but I just don't know that. I'm not a combine guy. We had talked though with Sally and those guys that maybe we were gonna do another combine for them also, to maybe have another presentation for you guys if you were interested in combines. So we can surely work on that too. There's the different classes. I know the newest, latest, and greatest is this S88 Class 8 Gleaner that just came out last June, that they released down in Heston, Kansas. That's our new Class 8 combine, which he said is a pretty sweet looking thing. Now we'll get into the hay tools. So you got a sickle mowers, either by the side pull or the center pivot, and the PTO or hydraulic drive, either one. A lot of different lengths. And then you got the conditioners. So they're basically rolling or steel on crimp or tines, whichever you want to do to condition your hay. Self-propelled windrowers. These are also AGCO power engines, 100 to 220 horse. These also have guidance on them, so you can actually auto guide steer your swather now. So that's on there, that's an option if you want it. And then the different heads, you've got a disc, a sickle, and a draper head bar that you can put on them for different cuttings. Raking and tedding, so you can all see all the different configurations of tedders and rakes, either PTO or ground driven, either one will work. You can buy a lot of different ones there. Baling, still a lot of round balers sold. A lot of guys hear a lot about the big squares, but we still do rounds. Now these are all Heston, they're Massey with the Heston sticker on them also. So it's a Heston baler branded Massey now is what it is, because we're consolidating our brands. But it's a red baler, but it's still got the Heston sticker on it. It's not the rust orange like it used to be. Still do small squares, not a lot again, but it's still offered in a lot of different ways, either PTO or engine driven, 80 to 180 pound bales. Here's our bread and butter. This is our big squares, up to 2,000 pound bales. They'll do the trailer on the back, so it'll spit them out onto the trailer. You can stack them over. We have a lot of guys doing this with custom baling now. We had a group up last week or 2 weeks ago from Ohio that does custom baling for the cellulose ethanol plants. So they're trucking out their balers and their tractors and actually doing all the ethanol baling in these areas, and they bring their telehandlers and stack them at the ethanol plants. So he just bought 5 of these new balers, he said. And he bought 7,000 tractors to go on them, so that was kind of nice. So he came down and see how the tractors were built, and then he was going to Heston to see the balers. Tillage, this is sunflower. So again, primary tillage like your rippers and your chisels, first pass, and then the secondaries with your topsoil management, your harrows, things like that. That's all down in Beloit, Kansas. Sunflower tillage. Still do seeding. A lot of wheat, barley, grass seeding, just drop seeding, simple mechanical drop seed planters, and then also into the air drills and the seed boxes. A lot of it's in Kansas at Beloit and Heston, and also the air seeders are up with Will Rich up in Fargo with Amity. Those are the ones that are built up in North Dakota. White planters, very, very popular planter. It's a very good planter. Air planters, a lot of precise seed placement, a lot of different configurations and fold-ins and all that kind of stuff with the different planters these days. The big 32 rows and everything else that's going on out there. It's a well-built planter. It's a very popular planter. They're built in Heston. Again, the bars are made in Beloit, and then the boxes and stuff are built in Heston to finish it out. So they'll actually ship out of the Heston facility. GSI grain bins. And we said, everybody kind of scratched their heads when AGCO bought GSI. But it's a great company. They're very state-of-the-art. They're built in Assumption, Illinois. You think about it, there's a lot of synergies between us and them with steel. with buying power, with buying your steel. So now you're buying a lot more of the steel and galvanized for the bins. So we can do that, get some buying synergies there. And also, it's a great company. It was a well-run company, and it's very profitable, so it's adding to our bottom line. And a lot of people don't realize, but it's truly a global grain bin company, so they go around the world with these bins. Also, something they don't realize, this is the next one, but they'll do dryers, conditioners, all loading systems, telehandling, things like that, to do the different things with the grains. But the other thing they don't realize is protein production. GSI is big into hog confinement, chicken, different things like that. It's the delivery systems, the watering systems for these confinement barns. They also do the curtain systems and things for the confinement barns, so the roll-up curtains and stuff. That is a GSI product, or they do market that. So it's not just grain bins. There's a lot of things going on with GSI. Advanced technology, ATS is what we call it. Our mapping, our soil mapping, precision farming, as we call it. Here's an example of a soil map after they went out and gridded the field and come back and showing you where you need fertilizer and where you don't need as much fertilizer. Our Terrogator rogators on the fly spreading of that as it goes across the field with our precision products that'll spread where it needs to spread and what it needs to spread. So it's a very complex, very good way of doing it. If some guys want to go back to flail type spreading, some guys want to do precision. It's from soup to nuts. There's a lot of different avenues there, but it's there. It's available if you want it. Different things. The ATS. It's an add-on system, so it's plug and play. You can add it on to whatever you've got. It's not a standalone. It sits by itself. It'll only run on this. It'll play with other things. So it's a good thing that'll add capabilities and value to the other equipment you want on your farm. Two primary products is guidance, or the auto steer as we call it, and then also Ag Command, which is our telemetry, which is basically tracking your vehicles. And one of our guys in the first group said, I run one of these and I really don't want people to know where I'm at. So he said, I really don't want the telemetry, but it's there if people want it. But a lot of the rogators, terrogators are out spreading for the co-ops. They like it because they can see when that truck is, or when that sprayer is done, when he's leaving the field, and where the tender needs to be next. So he can keep track of all his vehicles by a computer. Pretty cool stuff. And here's the different explanations of the auto steers. So as they're spreading or tilling, the different overpasses and overlays, you're talking meters or centimeters overlap versus feet of overlap on your tillage. A huge savings if you think about it over a 100 or 200 acre field. If you're overlapping if you're plowing twice or ripping twice on 2 to 3 feet, that's going to add up in a hurry, and that's fuel. But what the heck, fuel's cheap, right? So, but try to get it as close as you can get it. And of course, you don't want to overlap, but yet you don't want to miss either. So it does it really well with the guidance with steering. And then Ag Command is that telemetry that we're tracking. It's basically just a puck that plugs into the cab box here and basically just tracks that machine where it's going and where it's at. With a lot of fleet management, things like that you can add to it. And here's how that Ag Command works. So the tractor's sending it to a signal. That signal then goes to that tower, which feeds back to the main server, which then comes to the co-op guy's computer and shows them where those vehicles are at. Here's a little different story I want to show you, because this is kind of where we're going with some of the different things we're doing. You can see this is the continent of Africa. AGCO is starting to delve into Africa, and I'll explain to you a little bit why. Available cropland left in the world today, as of 2009, there are 972 million hectares of available farmland left in this world. Of that 972 million, nearly 600 million hectares are in Africa, with the rest being Latin America that compromises dang near everything else, which kind of shows you that we're probably tapped out, or dang near tapped out with land that's not being farmed already today. So we're thinking we need to try to make some inroads into Africa where there's some opportunity. There's available farmland over there, so this is what we're focusing on. Mechanization level of farmers in the world. So we're talking tractor units to every 1,000 farmers. So in Canada today, every farm basically has 1.8 tractors on it. Woohoo! You knew that was coming. USA is about 1.5 tractors a farm. Africa. I was waiting for that too. Africa, for every 1,000 farmers, 5 have tractors. Now think of that. We had Africa here probably 6 months ago with this initiative here to actually put a model farm, and I'll show you some pictures here later, a model farm in Africa for AGCO. So AGCO's putting the funding up for it. They're actually putting the operation of that farm. They're teaching these guys how to farm. And we're also going to probably put factories into Africa to build tractors right in Africa, probably through the Massey brand. But of these guys, and we talk to them, and they're great people, but everybody we talk to say they're still hoeing with a wooden hoe right now when they plant their corn, or their maize as they call it, or anything else that they do with their grains. And guess what else? When they harvest their grain, guess where it sits? On the ground. They don't store it. There is no storage over there. There's no grain bins. They put it on the ground, and they use the top until it rots, and then they throw it away. So there's a lot of opportunity for AGCO, and we're not the only player in Africa, trust me. The green ones are over there, and the other red ones are over there too. Because there's that much potential in that world if we can teach those people how to do this. So here's a little bit about what we can provide to them. You know, we're going to do the planting, the spreading of the fertilizers, the spraying, and also the harvesting. And of course, just like I mentioned, we can get back to them with storage, that there actually is something you can put your grain in and it's not going to rot. And then back to the helping with the agronomy and things like that to help them actually plan their crop, to plan their input costs and plan their, you know, different things and what your yield's going to be. These people, they just put on the ground what they get. They have no idea what the potential would be. Yes?
What country do you think is most open to new ways of doing this stuff?
In Africa?
Yeah.
The 5, and I'll go back to the countries, because the countries that are on there are the ones that come and visit me. Off the top of my head, Mozambique, Zambia. Zambia is where a model farm is at. They're the ones that are, I would say, the most excited about this. But Zambia, which is sub-Saharan, so it's not in the desert. Now, this is land that will farm. It's not, you're not irrigating sand. It's good soil. It's good soil that will grow stuff. And here's that farm in Chalambana, Zambia. So here's our little training system, or farm, you could call it, with the training section, and this is the fields that they've set up already for it. And they're teaching them how to drive a tractor, how to maintain it, how to run a planter, how to run a harvester, everything on those fields. And showing the potential that's there if they would embrace our product. So what we're doing, or what we're going to provide by that, is a technical training and the AGCO distribution to show them where to get the parts, where to get the tractors, help them get those tractors up and running, get them into their fleet, and then also bringing to the farm and teaching these people how to drive the tractors, how to be the farmers. A lot of these are corporate farms where a large high-end person in Africa is buying the farm, and he's got 30 to 50 people working for him right now or hoeing. So we're going to teach those people how to run these tractors and be more efficient on these farms. And also the education behind it. Get them into the schools, get these kids when they're in school yet and teach them farming, how to farm the right way, and start that culture early in their life. Questions? That's my presentation.
I noticed that it showed China with less tractors than Africa. And are you looking at that?
We're in China. We're in China. We're actually building a facility in China right now for smaller economy tractors that like the 17 to probably 4,000 series Massey's. There is a factory going in China right now. China's got some big land that's flat, but then there's a lot of mountains in China also. So there's not probably as much available land as in Africa, because Africa is huge. But yeah, there's some in China, but not a whole lot. But China is not very mechanized either. They're not really mechanized as much as what a lot of countries you would think. With the technologies, with the electronics, you'd think they would be more modernized. But in the farming side of it, they're not. They're really not. So we're making inroads there. We're making inroads in Russia. We're also putting some factories in Russia. That was just agreed upon here lately. Basically, it would be eastern Russia, nearly Siberia, that area. So they're going in there. Big farms over there too. On the first group, we had a group of about